Welcome back to another episode of You Only Live Once podcast. I'm your host, Addie, and today we have a special guest. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hey there, everyone. It's Rhonda Swan, the founder of the Unstoppable Branding Agency, and Wild Global Inc., the founder of the book series, Women Gone Wild, The Feminine Guide to Fearless Living.
Yes. And we're going to get into her new book release and also Wild X. If you could share a little bit more about that. But let's go ahead and dive in. Tell us who you are in your own words.
So I'm a mother first to an amazing 19-year-old girl, Hanalei. I'm a wife to Brian Swan. They call me the unstoppable mama of our unstoppable family. We've actually been traveling for the last 17 years. We left the USA 17 years ago, lived in over 52 plus countries, 7 continents. And, I'm an advocate not only for women empowerment, but I'm also the founder of a PR firm for the last 23 years. I was one of the first women that ever made a sales funnel before it had a name, and started, I left corporate to build our company online before social media. So I was one of the first women that launched an online business, if you will, that turned into a global conglomerate. That was the first company that ever launched online without being in a physical location. So we currently live in Bali, Indonesia. I'm in LA right now. And I'm just a woman on a mission to inspire more people to live unstoppable.
Yes. Wow, that is so inspiring. You were the pioneer before the internet became what it is today. Oh, wow. So then what is something about you that your business bio or just even your business energy doesn't say about you? What do you feel that people should know?
That I'm from Detroit, so I'm very tenacious and, I make things happen. I think that's the way that, growing up in a blue collar family and then turning into, a 7-figure plus business, you make it through your tenacity and your beliefs, not from where you came from. And I think that's something that you can't tell people in a bio, right? That your tenacity's got you to where you are. Your birthright brought you to who you are, but your tenacity gets you to where you are.
So then where does your tenacity come from? How do you channel that? Because a lot of people can get mixed up in where they came from and they feel that they owe their city what they build or whatever. Where does that tenacity come from? And how did you take that leap of faith and build it into your empire?
Yeah, well, I mean, tenacity is about just going for it and not being afraid to fail, and being that one. I always say, I may not be the smartest in the room, but I will always win because I will never quit. And that's something that, I was a professional athlete. I played for women's U.S. softball. I played for the national team from 12 years old all the way until I was 23, right before we were invited to the Olympics. And as an athlete, you learn how to fail, you learn how to get back up, and you learn how to, fight through the pain, the resistance and the things that stop you from getting to where you want to go. And I think taking, an athlete mindset into business is really what's gotten me to where I am, because coming from Detroit, it's just like, you're close to Chicago. It's a different way of growing up, right? It's blue collar, hardworking. My family, we got, what do they call it? Government cheese and government, we were on that, government program. And, I could have taken that into who I am and said, okay, that's the cards I was dealt. Instead, I decided that that's not the cards I was dealt. That might be in my hand, but I can actually turn those cards in and get a new hand and play a new hand. And so I've taken all of what I've learned in being an athlete and then understanding that where I came from is actually the grit, right? Like learn the grit. And then you can turn the grit into a glory as long as you become skilled and you believe in yourself and you create something that others want and you come in, to business as a service opposed to just a seller. I think that's really the power.
Yes, I agree. I just wonder, Um, so I love how you said you turned the cards in. Let me know if you can still see me. Sorry.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, you're good.
You turned the cards in. How did you know? Like, hey, actually, I don't need this anymore. Like, where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, my family was very blue collar. In fact, my biological father was a drug addict, left us when I was two, remarried, and I knew that I didn't want to be like my parents. Not that my mom and dad, my mom and my stepdad were bad people. They just lived the status quo, and they lived as if life was happening to them, not for them. And I think that, many live a life like that, right? We're like, okay, this is what I'm dealt. This is what I'm dealing with. And the drama becomes part of your day to day. And I remember watching that and seeing that going, I don't want to live like that. I don't need to be in that state of a mindset. And so I got really clear on, personal development and, reading more positive mindset affirmations. And, one of my favorite books was Think and Grow Rich. I was like, really? If you can think and grow rich and not be like birth into rich, like, is that real? And I had to decide if I wanted it to be real or not. So I'm like, I'm just going to believe in it because what else do I got to lose? Just like faith, oftentimes you're like, I don't see God. I don't know who God is, but do I believe in it? Well, you have to take that trust in that faith and think that, well, if I do, maybe something better could happen to me. And if I do, maybe better people will come into my life. And so that's the mindset that I took, that, all right, this is the cards I was dealt. It's not the cards I have to hold. And I love my family, my parents, but I just want to be better. I want to do it better. I want to, I want to leave a bigger impact on the world. I want to be a better, woman to women around me, to my daughter. I didn't want my daughter to see me, drinking every night and, doing the things that just didn't feel like parents should do. And it wasn't that they were wrong. I think they just did their best, but I wanted my best to be different, and I think that's something that a lot of times kids, and, I'm 53 now, proud of it. And we can blame
Oh,
our parents. Yeah, we can blame,
wow.
you guys are this way and you did this and I have trauma. Because I think that's a lot of the generations right now. They're mad at their parents because you dealt me this way. I'm like, just deal a new hand. They did it.
Exactly.
Now you got to do your best. And if your best is being pissed off at your parents for not doing something for you, that means you're entitled and you're not going to get shit in this world.
Say that again for the people in the back. Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yes.
you got to be real. That's my Detroit girl coming out.
Okay. And I agree. I agree. I feel like Gen X, at least for your generation for sure, you guys were really able to see how to build a dream and metamorphosize it through the digital age.
Yeah.
So to revisit what you stated, you started the funnel business, you said, before it even became a thing. How did
Yeah.
you see that being like the next, like
Yeah.
the
Well,
next
that's
big,
a
big
really
thing?
good question because it's pretty crazy, actually. My big vision and dream was that I was going to be a corporate executive and run a huge company. Well, I became that. I was hired out of grad school. I flew to California. I worked for a Fortune 10 company. I was running the Western division of this company, and I actually watched. This was in 2004. I went to a meeting in the morning and I was just 30, I think. Yeah, just almost 30. I go to a meeting and this woman came in late, and my boss was one of those perfect, prudy, real bitchy ladies. Sorry if I'm not supposed to swear on this
Yeah,
podcast.
you can.
One, let's go. So, and this lady came in late. Well, this uptight boss that I had, Jane, you could see her fury, right? And all of us were like, oh my gosh, this lady's late. Oh my gosh. And sure enough, she's like, you're late. And the woman started trembling and she says, Jane, today was a hard day. I put my 6-week-old baby in daycare. And it was really hard. I just came off of maternity. It's been 6 weeks and I have a brand new baby. Well, now, whoops, sorry about that. And so my body immediately says, what? Is this who you want to be for women? Is this who you want to be for kids? And I hadn't had children yet. And it immediately came to me like, I don't want to do this anymore. Now, mind you, my husband and I had just gotten married. We had just bought a 5-bedroom house in La Jolla, California. So, we're having this $1.5 million mortgage. And now I tell him, I don't want to be in corporate anymore. And I don't want to put my child in daycare. And he goes, well, isn't that what we do? That's what we were born to do. You work, you put your kids in daycare. And I said, yeah, but I think there's a different way. Now, this was at the moment when the internet was just starting to emerge. Okay. So this is in 2003 and 4. The internet was there, but the social media, no social media. And so I was watching one night a documentary with Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs said, if you don't learn digital marketing, if you don't learn how to use a computer, you'll be left in the dark. So I'm sitting there at 2 a.m, stressing about Jane. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Is this an option? There's this thing called digital marketing. And so I had no idea what it was. I found myself searching work at home mom using the internet. No kids, just a vision. And sure enough, all these websites start popping up. You can work from home. You can do this, learn digital marketing, learn this. I'm like, this is for real. Like, this is something that's actually here. And crazy enough, I clicked on an ad and it was this woman that said, I have 4 kids. I was a waitress and now I'm making 40 grand a month. And I was like, BS, right? Like, no way. Because here I am making multiple 6 figures. I'm a corporate executive with a massive company. I'm thinking, come on, really? So I meet this woman and she's like, look, I run 3-line ads. I'm selling products. And I said, okay, this is crazy, right? I got to figure this thing out. And so sure enough, my first experience with internet marketing was I joined a direct sales company that was in personal development. So they were selling like personal development books and CDs of like Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn, all these old schoolers back in the day, like the Think and Grow Rich books, all those things. They were kind of putting all this stuff together. And so I started learning 3-line ads on Google, running ads and selling these products. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean people actually want to change their mindset like I did? They want to read books, they want to get better. And so I decided to really double down on understanding how to be a marketer first. And I don't think you probably know who this guy is because of your age, but his name is Perry Marshall, and he wrote the algorithm for Google.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, because I had started to learn 3-line ads in Google, and I was like, listen, I want to learn from this guy. So I'm buying his products, I'm buying his courses, buying his books. I'm like, listen, Perry Marshall, teach me everything you know, because I want to leave my job and I don't want to have to put a kid in daycare. And that's what happened is I became one of the first women to make $1 million online with a sales funnel. That's what we know now as the name, because Russell, we know Russell really well, is that I was taking a 3-line ad, sending it to a website. And on the website had like a little 15-second video because there was no YouTube. So I had this thing called Audio Acrobat, was this crazy device that I uploaded my video to, grab code, put it on a website. And it said, if you want to learn how to make CEO income from home, call me. So I had an 800 number. So I was running digital ads to a website and then to a phone number, which is hilarious because that's, backwards funnel, right? It took them from manual, digital to manual. But that's what happened. I had an 800 number. People would leave me a message and say, I want to understand what you're doing. Because my little video said, my name's Rhonda Swan. I'm a corporate executive and I'm teaching people how to work from home, how to not put your kids in daycare, and how to leave your job. Like in 15 seconds. They're like, what? And that's what happened. My 3-line ads were CEO income, working from home. Don't believe me, don't call me, or don't believe me, don't click. Like I was going for it. But that's what happened. And from there, I was getting literally thousands of calls, thousands of messages, and people wanted a different life. And so I'd call them and say, okay, let me show you this, what I'm doing. I'll teach you marketing. I'll teach you this. You got a product. If you don't, I can show you this products and this kind of stuff that we're doing. And it just completely blew up. And, from there, it took off. And, then of course we got more technical and digital marketing became a thing. So there was more easier devices than Audio Acrobat to upload video. And then the crazy part though is I crushed it for 3 years. I quit my job. I retired my husband. Both of our incomes, I replaced it, right? So this is in 2004, 5, 6. Well, in 2007 and 2008, there was what's called the financial crisis. California real estate was booming. We were investing heavily in real estate. We thought we had golden gloves. Everything we touched turned to gold until the financial crash and the bubble, they call it the bubble burst in real estate, meaning all the prices of the real estate was started to go down and everything started to sink. And we had just invested everything that we had in a huge golf course development. And all the prices went down and our developers stole all the money that everyone had invested in and ran.
Wow.
Yeah. So you want to talk about going from, yay, look what I've learned and figured out and done. And at this time is when my baby was born. So all that dream, all that work, never put a baby in daycare. I remember the day my daughter was about 6 weeks old, almost 6 weeks to 8 weeks old. The banks call and they tell my husband, are you with your wife? You better make sure you're sitting down, because the $26 million homes that your name is on, the developer took all the money out of the construction loan, because in real estate, you build them, you get a construction loan, you use that money, you build it, and then it goes into what's called a permanent loan. And then of course you can sell them or you have a mortgage. Well, this guy stole every dime. And we're sitting in this almost $2 million home, a brand new baby, a business that was soaring, and now everything we invested in was gone. So when I told you earlier that we've been traveling for 17 years, most people go, wow, they must have had so much money. Well, we did until we didn't. And the reason why we left the USA in 2008, November 25th, 2008, is because that call, 6 months later, we lost everything. We had to file bankruptcy, get rid of everything we owned. And we left the United States on November 25th with $12,872.62 to our name, with a vision and vow to never put that new baby in daycare. And from there, now that's why we became the Unstoppable family, why we became the first to travel and become a digital nomad family before it was a word, because we're like, wait, we actually been doing this internet thing already. We don't have to do it in our home because now we don't have one. What if we took off and went somewhere cheaper, right? Lived in third world countries like Mexico, and then we live in Bali for the last 10 years. What if we did that? And I don't know if you've ever heard of the book 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Have you ever heard of the book? It was written. It was one of the first books that came out about being a digital nomad. He called it mini retirement. He didn't even call it digital nomads because it wasn't a thing then. He said you can take a retirement and set up your structures digitally so that you can live in Buenos Aires cheaper, and then let someone run, your mail and your email and all that. Well, we just said, well, we're going to do that because we already have a business that's been running digitally. And we just replanted ourselves in a new place and started our life from there. And now it's been 17 years. It'll be 18 years this November.
Wow. And this is stuff that my generation, millennials, we all dream of now. Like, especially
you were born into it.
Literally. And especially since the pandemic as well, too, because a lot of people, they just started leaving the country. 2020 happened. And so I even want to ask about that too. And then obviously your visions for like what is to come, because there's another bubble that's going to pop. And being a business owner, entrepreneur, honestly, a pioneer, like you're all of that. What do you see? But we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, what So now that you're a digital nomad and have been for over a decade before it was even a thing, how has life just adjusted for you, and how did that improve your business mindset, I should say?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We were talking about resilience, and that tenacity. And I think that's actually where I was able to tap in to that Detroit girl, hard, like if you want something, you're going to go after it kind of mentality. And your current situation doesn't determine who you are. Right. Like when I was a kid, my parents, the way they were, didn't mean I was that way, or didn't mean I had to be that way. And so even at that moment, here we are going from millions in the bank to $12,000 to our name and a baby in my arms. We had to get very clear on who we were at the core, right? Who are we? It's not the money. We're not money. We're good people that care about others, and we care about the planet. So how do we make the world a better place? And so we got through it that way. And that's, the mindset of we already are wealthy, that we've already created it. God's already given it to us. So it's there for us again. We don't have to be and live in this, state of nothing. We already are something. And so we just stuck to that and, rebuilt our business from there. We had to get used to, living on the road. And that made us really resilient because it became really interesting as well, because people had never done it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're telling people, now I've got a video, because right when we left, YouTube just came out. So now I can upload videos. Now it took 8 hours sometimes where we, right? We're in Mexico or in Panama, and it's like taking forever because the Wi-Fi was so crappy, but we did it. And so people were watching these videos going, what? Is this for real? So then I'm running 3-line ads to a video that people could really see us. And I'm in, Hawaii, or I was in Mexico, or in Buenos Aires, or in Fiji. And we're like, hey, if you want to live like this, call us. If you want to live like this, click, we'll call you. And so that's what started to happen. And we just started to build from there. And our mindset started to inspire more people. We got more inspired. And so the way that the industry and the economy has shifted has made it a lot easier. So when people go, oh, I can't do this, I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I had a voice over IP phone before Skype, meaning I plugged a phone in to a landline, and then it was insane what we had to do. I'm talking no Skype, no Zooms, no Google Meets, no podcasts. So that's, our mindset now is like, come on, we can do anything if we were able to make it through those times. Just like my grandparents were like, look, I made it through the Industrial Revolution. We made it through World War II, right? You can make it through the digital economy. You can make it through COVID. You can make it through this stuff, right? And so history does repeat itself. And so we look at crumbs and breadcrumbs of people before us, what they got through, to know, all right, it's not that bad for me. I can actually make this. I just got to look at how they did it. Now I got to do it my way. And that's what's going to continue to happen.
Yes. I love that. And I'm just wondering, like, who was your support system? Because living abroad, you're away from your family at home. So then who's your support system? And did you have to build a new support system, or was it just your close-knit family, like your husband and your child? Like,
yeah, that's a great question, because that was the most challenging, right? Is that when you have a new baby, you usually do have family or friends, parents. But when we decided to leave the US, our friends and our family kind of turned against us in a way. And they did it not because I think they were trying to be hard on us. They were afraid. They didn't know, they were like, guys, be responsible. You have a kid now. Go back and get your 6-figure jobs. My husband is a robotics engineer. And they're like, go back and get your job. I was a corporate executive. You guys could go back to 7 figures like this. But we made a commitment to never put my baby in daycare. And if I would have done that, I would have had to put her in daycare. And so our support system was not who we thought it would be. It became these new people in these new communities that we would meet. And one thing that we did do is we went to a different business event every 3 months, almost every month. But like there was events going on and speakers events and, entrepreneur events and marketing events. So no matter where we were in the world, we would find other communities that were doing things that we could learn from and grow from. And so we started to build really a digital community, naturally, that became our support system, right? Through mindset as well. And then physically, it was where we lived. We stayed usually everywhere from like a month to maybe 3 months at a time. And, you meet people really quick and, you start to find who's a good person, who's not, and you just leverage it. But really it was my family, my daughter, my husband and I that's why we're called the unstoppable family. Like we are so close. And that's why I went back in the US actually now, because my daughter's 19. She left when she was 1. She's lived out of the USA. And we're like, okay, she's been homeschooled. But in order for us to, help her get her life started, we need to get her back into civilization in areas that she can actually grow from. And, that's why we came back to the US. But, she started her first company when she was 11, 6 figures at 12, first property at 15.
Wow.
Because of her broad worldly view on life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a very big journey, but that, support system comes from necessity.
Yes, and you created that. Like, I'm so happy that you weren't influenced by your friends and family back at home where it was rooted in fear. And it's like, I don't know if I can support you doing that because they couldn't see themselves doing that. So I'm so happy that you were able to see yourself and trusted the vision, and that your family that you created was able to back you up in that and live it,
Yeah.
like actually live it. Wow. So my next question was going to be, what did you do right after that realization, like that this is real? Did you leap or did you tiptoe? You skydove.
Definitely.
Like,
Definitely. And it wasn't easy all the time, right? People were like, they only see the glory. There's a lot of challenges along the way, like financially, you go up and you go down, because even though the internet was growing, business models change and marketing changes and things don't work anymore, right? And then the internet comes out, right? And social media gets bigger. And then all of a sudden now everyone is trying to compete with the marketing that you were running, because they started to learn as well. So you have to get better and you have to keep sharpening your saw and keep finding new ways and different things that you can help support people. And, that's why we went from owning a branding firm, teaching people how to build their businesses online, build their brand online, to now we're really more of a PR and media firm. So we've evolved, where now I help people not only build their brand, but expand it onto big media, put their name in books and publish books and build their brand in such a bigger way. And that's, just through growing. As things are growing and as you're growing, you need to keep leveling up, because, what I do right now is old tomorrow. It's old right now, but I just did 1 minute ago, right? And that's how time is moving, especially with AI now. And if you're not on top of it, you're going to be selling to an old group that's going to run out of money.
yes. So then how do you find yourself not always having to keep up? Like, how are you ahead of the curve? How do you know, like, how
Yeah.
do you research that? How do you, what inspires you to be ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to stay ahead, but it's always looking at what are the trends, what are going on now? How do I use it without overly diving in? And I say that with caution, because AI is huge, right? And so many people have fully just dove in. Now, I'm tapping in and leveraging the growth of AI, but AI isn't what I do, because AI itself is also going to change and evolve. So that's where, like, for instance, when we tapped into internet marketing, I wasn't being just an internet marketer. I was offering a service and a product that was leveraging the tool of internet marketing, because my human self is what people wanted. So just like AI, even though AI is moving quickly and fast and everything is, moving, and the humans, people are thinking they're going to take away humans. That will never happen. So I'm leveraging the tools of AI to stay being relevant as a human, because nothing can take away human connection. Right now, you and I,
Mm,
the computer can't be me to talk to you, right? Or it's just computers talking to each other. And where's the value in that? Where's the lessons in the heart? And so that's really where I see constantly staying on the edge, using the tools that come up, because AI is going to shift a lot, right? Like people are they're turning their whole business into, how do I teach you how to use AI? But what happens when that's already beyond what you know, and now you have no business, right? So stay the human, know you're valuable, provide value to other people, leveraging the speed and light of the tools that are in front of you, because you are your brand, and that's something that will never go away. People that love faceless accounts, people that love being sold stuff without a human, you can buy that. But the majority of the world still wants humans. They want love and connection. We want heart. We need it. That's what we crave. We grow because of connection and energy. And so I know that'll never go away. And the ones that want to be robots, go to the robot section. I'll stay in the human section using the robots.
exactly. Exactly. I love how you put that. I love how you put that, because we all want to connect and be able to trust something. Like when someone, well, just me even talking to you right now, I can see the energy that went into you building who you became. Like
Mm.
it's valid, it's legit. I can see the progress of that. And when it comes to the faceless stuff or just like the robotic stuff, yeah, there is an expiration date on that. But the human, we will always continue to evolve. We only live once. You're always going to be changing and shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we can double down on human connection right now, like that's it. And that's where life, and I love the name of your pod is, you only live once. Live, keep living. Your heart has to keep staying strong. You have to live and be with others. Living isn't living alone and being a robot. Living is learning and growing and touching things and being part of nature, the things that are alive. Living is aliveness, right? So be around the other aliveness. That's how you live. And you live
Mhm.
once by doing it really well and just going for it all the time and just knowing, hey, it might implode. And if it implodes, you're only living once. You can do it again because you've already done it once. You were birthed and you actually grew into a grown up. You might make money. You can grow back into a grown up again, right? Like that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
it's how it is. But we get so stuck on who I was and who I am, and I think that's what is the killer of all, is that when people fall into something that's no longer the identity they put themselves as, they don't know what to do, because they've built this face that people expect them to be all the time. When that face falls off, they don't know what to do with themselves. And that's the point that we all need to know, that our face needs to change all the time, and don't get stuck with I am this. That's when you were like, so you explain it in your words who you are. Well, I could have immediately started off with I am a business owner. No, I said I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a advocate for women. What I do right now is I own a PR firm. I own, host a bunch of TV shows. I own a book series. That's what I'm doing right now. But maybe that might fall, and then tomorrow I might go, I'm a gardener.
Exactly. I'm a
You
chef.
know what I mean?
Yes. How are you, I guess, comfortable with forever changing? Because, like, I feel people do get stuck and fractalized when it's failure.
Yeah.
Failure kind of fractalizes people. They fall into pieces. Like, so then, how do you ground into knowing who you are and remembering who you are even when you forget?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a great question. And being now in my 50s, it's easy for me to go, I don't give a shit what you think about me. But I used to, right? I did. And in our generations, we learn, you know, in our 20s, we care what everyone thinks. In our 30s, we're worrying about what everyone says about us. In our 40s, we start to go, oh. In our 50s, we realize that no one actually ever cared or said anything about us, right? We're so worried about what everyone thinks about us. And then when we get into our 40s and our 50s, we realize, no, everyone's so worried about themselves, they could have cared less about you. So my best advice is to know that everyone else has got so much shit going on, they don't even give a shit about what's going on with you. So if you can just care about you and then give them a little extra love so that they know that you care about them too, now there's a connection, and those people will never judge you for changing.
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
So it's about knowing who we are first, and just knowing that you're going to be a chameleon all your life, and that what anyone else thinks, they don't really think about you. They're really thinking about themselves, because they're all worried about themselves too. And if we can just say, hey, I see you and I love you for who you are now and who you'll be tomorrow, now we got a friendship, and now we have a support system that will last forever. Because that was the hardest thing when we did leave. You know, the identity that our friends saw us as were big corporate executives, 7-figure earners, the cars, the houses. They saw us as that. So when we lost it all and became digital nomads with a baby, you know, no more assets, you know, living in little surf villages, because my husband and I met surfing. And we said, if there's one passion that we can keep us alive, it's surfing. So let's just go to surf breaks and be with surf communities and surf the world's best waves, even though we might be eating beanies and weenies every night. But we were living our passion and we loved what we were doing. So when we did that, we didn't care who then anyone thought we were, because we knew we were doing what we needed to do to be a better parent, to be alive in that moment with our daughter. So our friends couldn't get that part. They just saw us as now, oh, what have you done? Like, it was almost like a reflection on their own identity. You know, like, oh,
They knew they could be more.
what could we do? We could never do that. So they didn't want us to do it because they could never think. So they wanted us to be like them, so they felt safe.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know that, then nothing that ever is around us will matter. We just need to keep giving people love back. It's all good. Hey, I see you. I know I love you today. I'll love you tomorrow. It's okay. Because we are all going to change. And that's, you know, something that's it's just going to happen. We just know it's inevitable.
Yes.
And that's what I love about this new generation. You know, they get a little stuck on things, but then they're also kind of want to be at peace. You know, Gen X is, we're hardcore, man. We are gangsters. We're like, don't you mess with us. And then my daughter, you know, she's Gen Z, and she's just like, Mom, you're so intense. Can we just chill? Can we just like no, you know, but it's the generations, it's like loving each other for where we are. And you know, so I think it's the best lesson at any age, any generation. Just love each other, you know,
Yeah.
just do your best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that so much. And I love how you speak across the stage as well too. And I kind of want to pivot into Wild X. What is Wild X, and how do you leverage that
Yeah.
platform and get it to TEDx?
Yeah, so Wild X is kind of an iteration of my book series. So when I was during COVID, I had a near-death experience. It was crazy. I got severely infection, and I was sepsis, meaning my whole blood, everything was infected. And during COVID in Bali, Indonesia, no planes, you know, could go in and could go out. That meant no medical, no antibiotics were coming in and coming out. So people were dying just from simple infections because they just didn't have the medication to treat them.
Wow.
Right? So we had a friend who got a tattoo and he got an infection and he died. It was traumatizing. And sure enough, I get an infection and my whole body, I was convulsing. And so they have to rush me to the hospital, and I'm saying goodbye to my daughter and my husband because I didn't know if I was going to come out. And, they wheeled me into the emergency room, and they had to settle my body and, give me the antibiotics they could. And now I was, I wasn't awake. And I came out and I was groggy and I was awake. And my background is American Indian and Italian. And I have my roots. My great grandmother was a medicine woman, kind of a Cherokee Indian medicine woman chief. And so I learned all these traditions. And I had my drum, and I brought my drum, and I brought my, my incense and all my things, my tools, my witchy tools, my husband always calls it. And I was playing my drum, and I'm singing these ceremonial songs. And the Balinese, first off, they're Hindu, and they were like, oh, there's a witch in the room. Like, they were freaking out. They're like peeking in. But I was just giving glory to God and praying the way that I could, and just giving what I could at that moment. And out of nowhere, I was visited by spirits. And when I say this, and I know everyone thinks it's woo-woo and weird, I can see all these women's faces. They were women. They were women that had suppressed voices, witches that had been burned at the stake. These women's spirits, and I can see their faces even now when I talk about them. I see them. I see, these women that were craving for help, and they were screaming at me saying, "If you come back to life, we need your help. We need you to help us share our voice." And I'm like, I do that? What do you mean? I'm kind of arguing with spirit. They're like, stop. It's got to be different. We need your help. And I said, okay, I'm in. And it was like, shoot, they disappeared. And I'm sitting in this room. It was like a lucid dream where you're awake, but you're really not awake. That's what it felt like. And all of a sudden, it was those moments where people talk about near-death experiences and they see the light, right? There's all these things that people have said. But what happened for me is I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to do this for them. And it went, it was this download. And I used to laugh at people when they said downloads. I'm like, oh, whatever, airy fairy, right? No, it was real. It was like, you're going to do a book series, and it's going to be called Wild. And it's going to be wild means wealth, intuition, leadership, dynasty. A whole woman is wild, and you're going to help share their voices. And it's going to be 25 women. You're going to put them in a book. You're going to tell their story. And like, it was this instant visibility. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know what it is. My husband walks into the hospital room, and he's like, what is up with you? I'm calling people. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. He's like, what just happened to you? I go, I don't know, but I've been saved by spirit. All these women saved me. I got to do this. I have a mission now. And he's like, what? Now, mind you, I don't have extra time. I'm running a company. I don't have time to do another thing. But instead, I took it on, and I launched the book series, Wild. Again, Wild is wealth. So I took 25 women's stories, put them in a book called Women Gone Wild: The Feminine Guide to Fearless Living. And I told their fearless stories based on the way that they perceived wealth. And then it turned into intuition. Leadership, we just launched leadership. In fact, the leadership book is, it's pre-launch now. It opens up on June 23rd. So you can buy the leadership book in Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all over. Order it. It's series is in leadership is so powerful. And it's 25 women's stories. And from this book series, I realized that I was building the brands of all these authors, right? So I'm helping them tell their story, but because what I do in branding and PR, I'm building their brand all year, because when the book's launched, they're like, who are these women? They're rock stars, but they weren't rock stars before because I was doing the work for them. So then I'm like, well, why don't we put a stage together that they can then tell their story? So then that's when Wild X came about, because TEDx started putting everyone's stories in a box. They weren't taking airy-fairy, woo-woo stories. They weren't letting people talk about spirituality. They weren't letting women talk about trauma. They weren't talking about the real stories that people actually wanted to talk about. And so I'm like, well, everyone in my book has a real story. well, why don't I blow the top off the TEDx and call it Wild X? And then we tell the real stories, the medical ones now, the spiritual ones, the near-death experiences, right? The stories of not only women, but also men. I put them on a stage and a platform, let them tell their story. We do all the PR and media, they get expanded, and we're calling it the American Idol for speakers, because then we have celebrity judges, and then they get opportunities to speak, and we have a winner who wins a big prize, so it's been, so Wild Book turned into Wild X, which then turned into Wild Global, which is now my global company that has, events. We do masterminds, the Wild X. We're building a big community. And, that's when you were asking, where do you go next? It's like, that's where the evolution, right? Like, how do I just add that? But we're staying human. We're doubling down on human interaction. We're using AI, but we're doubling down on the human connection and bringing people into this beautiful Saban Theater in Beverly Hills, gorgeous theater. We've got like Michael Beckwith from The Secret. I don't know if you remember this book, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He's one of our celebrity judges, Marie Diamond from The Secret. Like, they're all these beautiful human beings that started personal development that are now celebrity judges, and we're just supporting people's messages. And Wild X is now, my vision is to have 80,000 women in a coliseum sharing their wild stories.
I love that. I love that. I love how, and this is what I'm also seeing too, because this is an experience that you're bringing in person to others. This is how we're building community. And I love that you are highlighting the women who are the go-getters, the women who have gone through something and came out, like we all, like the ones who have been resurrected in a way, I love that. And oh yes, tell us the book again. It was called Leadership, or what was it? Say it one more time.
Women Gone Wild is the book, and then we've got 4 editions. So the leadership book, Women Gone Wild, The Feminine Guide to Fearless Living, Leadership Edition. And it's all stories of women, not only in leadership positions, but how they view leadership. So for instance, my daughter, who's 19, she's been in every one of my books. And, the first book was about wealth. And she wrote that wealth to her was collecting memories, not things. So it's their perception on what does wealth, intuition, and leadership actually mean to them. And for her, like, she's got a great example, because she says, I grew up around leaders. My mom was a leader. I learned all this powerful leadership. She said, but for me, leadership was more of an action. It was more who I'm being every day in my everyday life, who I'm being to my friends and my community. That's leadership, how you show up every day. And so, for mine, it was leadership is it's a feeling. It's like, if you're a leader, you feel the integrity and you feel the obligation to do things that no one else would ever do, right? Because we know some of our greatest leaders in the world, they went out on such a big limb, and it wasn't for glory. It was, like we look at Martin Luther King, like, look at the things that they stood up for. And it wasn't for money and glory. It was to lead the people to know what they deserved in the world, right? I mean, Rosa Parks, she sat in a bus and said, no, I'm a Black woman that deserves to sit here. That's leadership. She stood up, and she almost was killed for it, and so that's the type of leadership that we represent. It's like doing things that no one else is really willing to do, especially when people are not watching, right? And so that's really what each of the books are about. They take the stories of the women involved and how they've evolved themselves, and what that title or that topic means to them.
Yes. Wow. I love that. I love that. I love that. And so you just answered my next question.
Send you a book. I'll send you a book. You're gonna give me your
Yes.
because your address, because I'll make sure you get a book, and everyone
Absolutely.
can get it. You can order it directly online on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, or you can walk into the Barnes and Noble and say, I want the Women Gone Wild leadership book, and they'll either order it if they don't have it. And that's the only way, the message can continue to move. is you buy one,
Absolutely.
another one, and give it to somebody else, you know?
Exactly, exactly. Because we all need to know this, and this is all it's in us. It's the knowledge, it's that's already in us, but we have to bring it out and we have to I love how you're incorporating all the woo-woo with the realness and everything.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well,
For
yes, you've been flying through my questions. But I appreciate you so much. I have one last question here, and then you're gonna just let us know all of your socials, how we can find you, how we connect with you. But what does you only live once mean to you? And yeah, what is your legacy as well too? Like if you had to sum it up.
Yeah, well, you only live once is something I think I live every single day. Every day I live my life like it's a movie. And what I mean by that is this. Right now, I am in your movie, and everyone that is listening or watching, I'm in your movie right now. So I'm going to be the absolute best character in your movie. But the deal is this: anyone that's around me, I want you also to be, because you are in my movie, to be the best that you can be for my movie. And every movie's going to have villains, right? We're going to have hardships. There's going to be, there's going to be all kinds of things that may happen in the movie, but we get to determine how we want it to end, right? Do you want to be the one dying with nobody around them because you were a jerk your whole life? Or do you want everyone around you hugging you and loving on you because you're the greatest person that they wanted to be around all the time? And so if we live our life like that, every minute counts, right? And you only do live once. So how do you want to live now so that in the end, how do you want people to view your movie? Right? Because some people might delete it or they might rewind it and watch it again and remember you and remember you. And that's how I view you only live once.
Yes. And if you had to give your legacy one word, what would it be?
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable. Hey, come on, living our life like it's golden, unstoppable. Okay. Well, I appreciate you and thank you so much, Rhonda, Mrs. Swan. Let everybody know where they can find you, how they can support you, when are the books coming out, and when will the next Wild X tour be?
Yeah, awesome. Well, you can find me on social media. I'm Rhonda Swan, RHONDA SWAN. I play very heavily on Instagram, but we're everywhere. You'll get to see the type of shows that I do. I host my TV shows in New York and in LA. I have big media days here in my penthouse. I have now penthouse masterminds, and we break down your brand and we do all that fun stuff here in my penthouse in LA. And then Wild X, the next Wild X is October 1st. It's in Beverly Hills at the Saban Theater. You can come and be a guest, or you can also become a speaker. And you can apply at wildxtalks.com. The next one's February 25th next year. We do them every February and every October. And yeah, but the Wild Women Gone Wild book right now, the leadership book is available right now. You can type in, Women Gone Wild leadership. It'll show up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you can purchase books, or walk in the store and ask for it. And then the Dynasty book launches next year. And we are taking applications for authors that are like, I want to leave a dynasty. I want to be one of your authors in your book. I want you to help me build my brand. I want to be on a Wild X stage. And all of that comes together when you become an author in our book series.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave all of her links down below in the bio. And yes, thank you so much for being here today on You Only Live Once podcast.
Only live once, girl. Let's keep going.
Yes, let's keep it up. All righty. Well, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thanks,
Bye.
Addie.